All right, I'm on the Selma to Montgomery trail right now. And that is the historic trail leading from Selma to Montgomery. What happened on that trail? Well, I'm going to tell you throughout this video. And right there is Tent City. That's where 1964, around there, white landowners, when they forced, because of voting rights, they forced black families out of their houses. Students set up a tent city here for families to have an address so they could vote. And it was right here behind me. There's a little museum on the side of the highway dedicated to this historic trail. I was just inside talking to people. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Go inside. I've got stuff to show you, though, that are outside because it's a beautiful day. But there is Tent City behind me. Sad history. Strong. All right. I'm going to show you something on the side of the road right now that I passed and I have to go back. But you'll see. So right up here, right off the highway, is a marker for a woman named Viola Liuzzo, who was shot and killed by Klansmen. I was told by someone else it was the FBI, but I think it was Klansmen. And she was shot and killed here as she brought marchers from Montgomery back to Selma. And as she was driving back, she was shot and killed by the KKK. It's really nice to see this taken care of still. This little area here. It's beautiful. I'll show you a little bit around. It's around just a big long highway, but to think about the people that marched along here that long ago. Wow. And it is, I think it took them 4 to 5 days. It is a long drive. I can only imagine what it was like in the heat to walk that far. For more comprehensive information about the Selma March and about the Civil Rights Movement, about kind of what I'm filming, I'm sure there's more other videos out there you can find, but this is just my personal little journey along the road to Selma, and I thought I'd share it with you. And I'm learning the history as I go along. If it's pop culture history, something to do with music, movies, TV, that sort of thing, boom. I got a wealth of information. I got a lot stored up here. Other things I do know about, but not the amount of information I want to have in my head. I want more. I'm always striving to fill this big head. Look at the size of it. So, yeah. I hope I'm doing it justice, what I'm filming. But yeah. This is the road behind me. Montgomery, Alabama, the capital. That way. Selma, that way. I'm going that way. And you're coming with me. I just met a lovely lady named Brenda. Right over here, you can see her behind me, attending to her son's grave. Her son died at the age of 27 in 2000. Anthony Amp, rest in peace, my man. Very sad for anyone who loses a child. It's just, but she's out here, she's heading to the grave, and she's the sweetest woman. Shout out to you, Brenda, when you see this. And this cemetery is for the church. Ooh, falling all over the place. It's for the church that's right here. So a lot of older graves, a lot of newer ones. Not as many newer ones because you can see they're older, but down to the end, newer ones. This is right by the marker for Viola. Come out and take a look. That was heavy. Talking to her, that was heavy. On to Selma. All right, I made it to Selma, Alabama. Behind me, the National Voting Rights Museum. Take a tour if you're here. It's really interesting inside. No videoing, so I adhere to the rules. Right across the street is a little park and a memorial. And right now I'm going onto the bridge. The actual bridge that the marchers crossed coming from Selma to Montgomery. So this is the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. And when African Americans demanded the right to vote, they marched all the way to the state capitol. There were a few different marches that were organized. Martin Luther King was part of the organizers. And a couple of them turned violent. One of them is known as Bloody Sunday. Here's the famous bridge right in front of me. Let's get to it. The Edmund Pettus Bridge. Named after a Klansman, no doubt. And there's been talk about getting this bridge renamed. But they haven't come up with a name that they want to rename it. And funding and all of that sort of thing. So they should rename it. So that way is Montgomery. Behind me, Selma's that way. I'll do a little walk back. If I just want to take some shots of the famous bridge. And you know who did a speech at the foot of this bridge? Not too long ago. I believe it was 2015. My number one man, Barack. And the bridge used in a movie. Filming location. Guess what movie? Yeah, Selma. Selma the movie. They filmed it here. Oh, bruh. I believe Barack did his speech somewhere around here. You can see that in the background. I guess I'm being a little too familiar when I refer to Barack Obama as Barack. I don't know, feels like I know him. Doesn't it feel like you know Barack Obama? Doesn't it feel like he could be your friend, your buddy? You want to chill with him? It's loud under this bridge, and look at this bridge. I'd say after London Bridge, this is probably the most famous bridge in the world. Well, no, Golden Gate Bridge, but this one has the most meaning, I think, the most significance. So right up this street is where the marchers walked, and when they got to the crest, right there, it's where the marchers saw a sea of blue, and that would be state troopers. So they were beaten and bloodied and turned away, and then it took a while to regroup, get back and do another march. Like I said, I believe there were 4 marches in total. I could be wrong with those numbers, but I believe it's 4 in total. And Governor George Wallace was the one that encouraged the troopers to do what they did. Wow, yeah, this is busy. Right about here is where they would have seen the police officers. Get a muffler! Right about here is where they would have seen the police officers and where the deadly attacks took place. But they did eventually make it to Montgomery, whereby it became a 2-lane highway, and then only 300 people were remaining. They camped overnight for about 4 nights, and they made it. And that was about an hour-long drive. in this blistering heat, I can only imagine what it's like to walk. But anyways, by the end there was 300 people, and then when they got to state capitol, 25,000 people joined them. So it was 40,000 down to 300, back to 25,000 by the end of the final march. So now I'm walking the route, just a short distance. The dedication, the perseverance for the people that made this walk is incredible. It is gorgeous. Beautiful, look at that. Like, it is some of the most gorgeous country I've ever seen. Somebody fishing down there. Anybody know the name of this river that I'm crossing? If you do, write it below, because I didn't actually check that out, what the name of the river is. But now I'm walking back down the hill, and this is where they would have started walking towards Montgomery. So Bloody Sunday was an early march, and then they marched again a week later on March 9th. And then the final march was 4,000 people, not 40,000 like I just earlier said, which went down to 300, and then 25,000 state capitol. President Johnson was the one that enacted the voting bills, right? But Governor George Wallace said, nope, we're not going along with that. So there's still a lot of resistance met with people down here. But they made it, and African Americans were granted the right to vote. I'm going to take you into a little park right now across the street, a little memorial. Reading about the history of the lynchings here in Selma. Up until 1935, there were still lynchings going on. And one man, Joe Spinner Johnson, who just wanted to form a union to receive better wages for the sharecroppers. He was beaten mercilessly. His mutilated body was later found in a field over in Greensboro. And they were committed with the involvement and complicity of law enforcement officers and commonly went unpunished. This is heavy stuff being here. I'm not gonna... Wow. It's really sad. It's really sad, and just knowing the history of what happened here and the people that what they went through. And I've read about lynchings before. I know a lot about them. And to think that I'm where some of the most horrific ones occurred, right over there. I'll show you something else. Interesting little park here. In the middle of Selma. I guess on the outskirts of Selma. This is right at the foot of the bridge. Mika D. Johnson, 23 years old. 22 years old. I'm not sure what happened to this gentleman here. 23 years old is not the right time to be leaving the earth. Now, I'm not sure what this is. hard to read it. But I believe this was an old courthouse, I think. If you know, and you're watching this, please write in the comments and tell me what this is. That's right outside the bridge. There's Martin Luther King right there. This gentleman was murdered at the bridge, I know that. Jimmy Lee Jackson was a victim. Well, that's it for this video. The heat in Alabama has officially flattened me. If you're here, if you come to Alabama, go to Montgomery, tour Montgomery, learn the history better than I did. I hope I did a good job of giving you a little bit of the history. There's a lot of people walking the bridge right now. I hope I give you a little bit of the history of the march from Selma to Montgomery, showed you some things along the way. Finally, I got to that bridge, which I've wanted to see for a long time. And read elsewhere more about what happened here with African Americans and the right to vote and getting the right to vote. It's such an important story, and I don't know if I did it justice, but I hope I did a little bit. But yeah, and be prepared to be overwhelmed with emotion and a little bit of happiness, because this place, I don't know. And right now I'm watching family with little kids right across the street looking at the same memorials I was just looking at, and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's heavy coming out here, knowing the history of what happened here, knowing the struggle of African Americans, what happened, and what they had to endure. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't think you learned anything, because you probably know more than I did if you're watching this about the history of it. But I learned a lot, and that's what I wanted to do. So now I'm off somewhere else, little lighter, and you're gonna come with me, and I'm gonna show you. I've got a lot more to do. I need a giant Monster Energy drink that's freezing cold, but it's gonna be warm because it's been sitting in my car for too long now. Oh, look at these skies. I gotta go. Peace. Out.